Hi and welcome to the channel. Today's video is a thread response to Beetle Dave, the bus driver from Derby, who's posted a thread on the 9th of October and has asked people to contribute all around the late and great John Lennon. 9th of October would have been his birthday. Sadly, obviously, he's not around to see that anymore. So I thought I'd join in, and what he wants us to do is just pick one track from each of the solo albums up to Milk and Honey. No compilations, that type of stuff, but they can't have been a single. So he's highlighting some maybe some more of the deeper cuts in the Lennon catalogue. So my kind of introduction to the Beatles and John Lennon was sadly around the time of his death. I would have been, I think, 10. And in the UK, obviously, the media coverage there was huge, and that kind of from there made me start to query the Beatles. So I went to my mum and dad's record collection, and then I think the first solo album I bought by any Beatle was the John Lennon collection, which is all the singles, and then over the years went into the back catalogue. So I think the first proper solo album I bought was Walls and Bridges, so more of that later. So where to start? Well, I'll start at the beginning. So possibly the best Beatles solo album. So this is the Plastic Ono Band, and there's a young John on the back cover. There was a twin to this album which features a similar shot, but they reverse the position. So you got John and Yoko. So I think on the Yoko album it's the other way around, and on the back you've got a picture of Yoko. So if you are in a second-hand shop, if you don't want to buy a Yoko solo album, look for the back cover. So what more can you say about this album? It is an absolute classic, isn't it? Possibly the best Beatles solo album. The song I would pick is the song God. It's just one of the most immense pieces of music done by anyone. The lyric is superb. The tune is a little bit like Love Letters, but at the end he does that big mantra of things that he doesn't believe in, and it culminates with he doesn't believe in Beatles. That's, if there was a statement of intent of somebody that's leaving a band and he's going to go solo and he's starting a new chapter in his life, that song is the one, and this album from start to finish is brilliant. But yeah, I would go with God from that album. The follow-up is the one that everyone kind of bought, Imagine. I think John, in his own words, said this was the sugar-coated version of his debut solo album. I mean, this is again a fabulous album, isn't it? But the one I would pick would be How Do You Sleep. You've got George Harrison on slide guitar. It's a bit of a nasty dig at Paul, but that stuff was going back and forth between them in the early 70s. But yeah, How Do You Sleep would be my pick from Imagine. Crikey Riley, now this is a tough one. Sometime in New York City. Now, I have to say I am not a fan of this album at all. There's a gatefold for those that are interested. I would struggle to pick one song from this album that I particularly like. Obviously, the opening single we can't really talk about anymore, and I suspect that's why this never got a deluxe reissue. Tough album to pick one. I would have to go with the almost title track. What is the title track? Nearly title track, New York City. That's the only song really from there that I've got kind of any time for, to be honest, and I'm pretty sure that wasn't a single because the album kind of bombed. Yeah, it's a funny one, this one, because I really am not a fan, but I have spoken to other people in the vinyl community who think this is one of his last great albums because it's so uncompromising. But hey ho, maybe I like my John a little bit less protesty, but for me, I just don't think there's many songs that are that memorable on the album, to be honest with you. So yeah, so New York City would be my pick from that one. Now, this is one that's just had the super duper deluxe reissues and all kinds of fun and games, hasn't it? And perennially, this was regarded again as a weak album. And it's kind of getting a bit of revisionist kind of publicity now, isn't it, really? The remixes that have come out and the remasters over the last 20 years have done this album in immense favour. The 2002 CD is particularly good, and obviously there's the new super duper UV Torch and all that type of stuff deluxe set. But for me, obviously the title track was the single, so I can't pick that, but the song that over the last 20 years, and I've been listening to John Lennon solo stuff since, crikey, seriously probably since the late 80s. The one that comes through more and more, and is now, I think, regarded as one of the more major compositions in his lifetime, is Out of the Blue. You know, that's just such a brilliant song, so that would be my pick from there. But it's a more solid album than probably people give it credit for in its later incarnations, but it was spoilt slightly somewhat by a slightly muddy mix. But yeah, is it the lost classic everyone's taking it out to be? I'm not so sure, but yeah, it's a decent album. Certainly better than the one before. Now, Walls and Bridges. For me, this is a really solid top tier John Lennon solo album. Sadly, there aren't that many of them, but I love this album. I haven't got the one with the things that flip open, sadly. It is a UK press, but not the one with the flippy stuff. Anyhow, so 2 singles from this. Whatever Gets You Through the Night, which actually I don't like that much. But Number 9 Dream is a fabulous song. But the crikey, the song I would pick from this would have to be the opener, Going Down on Love. Because this was the first solo album I bought, and I knew all the singles, and I got the John Lennon collection. And when that came on, and it's a song I'd not heard prior to buying the album, it just, I was like, crikey, this is good. And it kind of set the album up, but this is a really, really good album. But yeah, Going Down on Love would be my pick for that, which I think was the same as Dave's. Rock and Roll, what a lovely cover for a start of. That's what a brilliant idea to use that of John in the 50s. It's a covers album, and it's one of the best covers album, isn't it, really? The one I'd pick from this, obviously the single Stand By Me, fabulous song, but the one I always loved was Boney Maroney, which is a very I think everybody under the sun covered that in Liverpool in the day. It's another Larry Williams song, but I've heard a version Echo and the Bunnymen kind of done of that. Saw him a colour live, and I think he slipped a few verses of that into another song, but Boney Maroney would be my pick from Rock and Roll. And sadly, we're getting towards the end now, so the last album released in his lifetime, Double Fantasy. So for those that don't know, this is a split album, so it's got Yoko and John, and it's an album that, when you understand the background of it, is enhanced. So basically, the idea is it's a call and response. So the John song would be followed by a Yoko song, that the idea was that they would answer each other. And when you kind of listen to it in that regard, it's a much better album actually than it's probably given credit for. Because obviously in the past, a lot of people were like, this was a great album if it didn't have any of the Yoko songs on it. But the song I would pick from John, I'll pick one each. Most of the John songs were singles, with the exception of Beautiful Boy, Darling Boy, which is his song for sure, and that's an absolutely fabulous song. But I'd also give a little shout out to Hard Times Are Over, which closes the song. That's quite an emotional track when you think about what happened shortly after this came out. So this is a document, if you like, of a more mature couple chronicling the ups and downs of their relationship over the last 4 or 5 years, you know, when Sean came along. And it finishes on that positive, the hard times are over, and sadly they weren't, were they? So yeah, so lovely song. And obviously Darling Boy is another great one. And then the final one, this was also released posthumously. So Milk and Honey, which came out on the Polydor label. And again, a nice gatefold there. And that's Central Park. I've been there. I think really, because you can't count the singles, it kind of only leaves me with Grow Old With Me. That's the song you would highlight from this album. It's not as good as Double Fantasy, but it's a worthy kind of postscript to the story, and it kind of finishes that journey off, and it's the stuff he was working on, sadly, as he was murdered. But yeah, Grow Old With Me, really nice song. There is a version with George Martin orchestrations on the Anthology projects that's worth checking out as well. So there you go, short and sweet. Thank you for Dave for posting the thread. I have answered the call. Thank you for all those that are liking and subscribing. I've had quite a lot of additional subscribers in the last month, so thank you for all those that have joined the channel. And the next video will be another thread response for Brian at the Embryonic Robot, which is a completely different thread, and that's a fun one to do. And then return of all things goth at the end of the week. The Cure video I've really enjoyed doing, and that's had a lot of kind of traffic on the channel. So yeah, so the goth month will continue at the end of the week. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching.